Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. So in the Bhagavad Gita, we are on chapter 7. This chapter is called Jnana Vijnana Yoga, the yoga of knowledge and special knowledge on Jnana and Vijnana. And that comes from the second verse, which we have already done, where Krishna tells Arjuna that I'm going to tell you about Jnana, knowledge, and Vijnana, the higher knowledge, after which nothing more remains to be known. Now, as I've mentioned earlier, from the 7th chapter onwards, you will find a great emphasis on the nature of God. One might think, well, it's a religious book, so we're going to talk about God anyway. But yes, but there are these 3 phases to the Bhagavad Gita. We discussed this earlier. The great Vedantic teaching that thou art, tat-tvamasi. If you look at it that way, in that framework, then the nature of thou, that means the sentient being, us, that was the focus in the first 6 chapters. And then in the next 6 chapters, starting from the 7th one, the focus is primarily on that. That means God. And then the last 6 chapters, the focus will be the identity of that and thou. And again, this is a very broad framework. There are lots of things in between which won't exactly fit into this framework, but broadly speaking. And it is true that from chapter 7 onwards, we will talk more and more about, or more than we have been talking about, God. So the nature of God, what is God, what is this universe, who are we, that is being talked about. A very, very important few verses here. Verses number 4 and 5. We did that last time. Let me just chant those 2 again and we'll go on. This is a very important 2 verses. Bhumirapo nalo vayu khang mano buddhirevacha ahankara iti yamme bhinna prakritirashtadha apareyam itastvanyam prakritim vidhi me param jiva bhūtāṁ mahabaho idaṁ dharyate jagat. So the earth and the water and the fire and space, air and space, mind and intellect and ego, all of these are my lower nature. And it's pretty interesting that this division is made. All of this, God says, or the avatar of God, Krishna says, this is my lower nature. But if you look at it, one interesting thing strikes us, that whatever we can, whatever we experience, whatever we know of this universe, all of it comes into this lower nature. First of all, this universe, stars and planets and galaxies, and living beings and non-living beings, mountains on this earth, mountains and deserts and oceans and rivers, the air and the water, all of it is what? Material nature. And in the ancient cosmology, it is all these 5 elements, the space and air and the fire and water and earth, or in modern terms, all these veritable zoo of subatomic particles, as one particle physicist put it, quarks and so on and so forth. So all of these, this totality of material nature, everything that you know, including what we know about ourselves, which material science yet does not have a good grasp upon. For example, he says, not only this universe, not only all, see, even all living beings, our bodies are made of these 5 elements. They're living bodies, but they're made of these 5 elements. So the bodies of all living beings and the external physical nature, all of it, plus what else do we know? We know that there is another dimension to us, our inner being, most important to us, our thoughts, our feelings, our ideas, memories, our personality, our minds, intellects, and most important, closest, central to all of us is I, the ego, I, the I sense. And here Krishna says all of it, the external universe, including our bodies, and the internal universe, our thoughts, feelings, emotions, all of that put together is my lower nature. Then what could be the higher nature? What else is there? Well, there is consciousness. See, here a clear demarcation is made between consciousness and its objects. Everything else is an object to consciousness. Material nature is an object to consciousness. External universe is an object to consciousness. Our own bodies, object to consciousness. Our thoughts, our emotions, our memories, our ideas, even I, the ego, object to consciousness. Apart from all of this is consciousness itself. And then he says, all of this is my lower nature. And apart from all of this is consciousness, is my higher nature. And this higher nature, so that is God. No, that's you. It says jiva bhūtāni. It is the sentient being. It's your real nature. We think but I am this conglomeration of this body and my thoughts and feelings, my personality. And yes, if you insist awareness, I'm conscious also, I'm aware also. All of it bundled together, I am. But here Krishna says, no. In you, there are these two sides to you. One is all of which you described, your physical body, a living body, plus your thoughts, feelings, emotions, the inner world you have got of your personality. But there's also another side to you. You are aware, you are a conscious being. And that's not just one aspect of many things. That is a central aspect. That's what you really are. You really are consciousness. And that is my higher nature. That's my real nature. Whose real nature? Your real nature. And God says God's real nature. He says, my higher nature, my real nature is consciousness, is your real nature, which is consciousness. But you have an overlay of mind and body, and you have forgotten your real nature. You mixed it up with mind and body, and you think you are an individual little sentient being, a jiva, a single sentient being separated from this vast universe, separated from all other millions and billions of sentient beings. The birth and death of the body, which is lower nature, you have taken it upon yourself, say, my birth, my death, my aging, my suffering. There is suffering, aging of the body, sickness in the body, reflected in the mind as pain and unhappiness. All of it is lower nature. And you are illumining all of it and experiencing all of it because you are consciousness. That consciousness is my higher nature. My higher nature here means Atma Bhutam. Shankaracharya says my own self. That means God's own self. God's own nature is consciousness or awareness. But that's a pure awareness or awareness itself. What we think of as awareness is awareness plus mind. It's the awareness which is already mixed up in thoughts, feelings, emotions, the ego sense. So, idaṁ dharayate jagat. By that consciousness, by the real nature, the entire universe is upheld, or entire universe is supported. What does it mean? The entire universe is supported. It means this particular body, first of all, is enlivened, activated because of the presence of awareness. You, consciousness, coming into the subtle body, you light it up. Then thoughts are experienced, feelings are experienced, ideas are experienced, memories are experienced, all of which is in the subtle body, but it becomes experienced once consciousness shines upon it. Consciousness shining upon the subtle body, if you remember Vedanta Sar, it's called chidabhasa, reflected consciousness. Now, not only this happens, but the subtle body also is constituted with prana, the energy. So that energy now makes a life energy, which enlivens the physical body. Now you have a body-mind system, an active, capable, because of your presence. And here an ancient Sankhyan saying is relevant. Sankhyan saying, it is Sanghata pararthatvat. Sanghata pararthatvat. What does it mean? Every complex entity, every compound entity is meant for something apart from that compound entity. What does that mean? That means, suppose there's a bed. A simple example. The bed has a pillow and it has bed sheets. It has a mattress and then maybe a comforter. Now, all of that is meant for you. It's not meant for itself. The comforter is not there for the mattress. The pillow is not there for the bed sheets, or the bed sheets are not there for the pillow. They're all arranged for something quite apart from the bed, which is you. Here is a house you live in. There are doors and ceiling and floors and electrical equipment and washroom and the plumbing. All of it is meant for something quite apart from the house, which is the dweller of the house, who has really no connection with the house as such. But the house is constructed entirely for your use, yet you are not part of the house. The door has not been made for the plumbing, and the plumbing has not been made for the electricity. It is all there for you. So this is called Sanghata Pararthatvat, because all compounded entities are meant for the use or for the purpose of another. Another means something apart from the compounded entity. So this here you can see, just as an aside, just think this is quite different from the materialist reductionist point of view. According to the materialist reductionist point of view, which is adopted by mainstream science today, is this entire universe, which is a complex entity. Why is it there? For no purpose. It's just there. It's not there for anybody's purpose or any entity's purpose. Big Bang created it, and the universe came into existence. Over millions and billions of years, you have stars and galaxies, planets, and all of that. And then life evolved somehow. And then the process of Darwinian evolution took over. And now you have, voila, you have you and I and him and her. We are here. For what purpose? No purpose. Just accident. It's all accidental. So that is the materialist perspective. But Sankhya says, if it's a complex entity, it is meant for another. So the whole material universe is meant for something else. Why am I saying this? Just as this entire physical body which is there is meant for you, the conscious indweller who activates the physical body. Because of you, this physical body is active. And not only that, in the long run, or in the big picture, it is because of you the universe exists. Who has created the universe? God has created the universe. According to Vedanta, Saguna Brahman, the absolute with the power of Maya, has created this universe. Why? Why? For what purpose? For you, for me. What are we to do with this universe? It gives us experience, and it enables us to evolve spiritually until we realize our true nature. So this is the idea in ancient Sankhya, and also, of course, Vedanta, all these philosophies. They say that this entire game of this universe, entire game of life, is meant for our spiritual evolution and enlightenment, to reach, to experience and reach our infinitude, to enable us to see our own godhood. Why would God do all this for us? Because God says, you are my own, very own. You are my nature. You and I are one reality. So if somebody says, no, it's God's play, another way of putting it, the whole universe is the play of God. Correct. It's the same thing. It is God alone who has become us. And for our own sake, for our own spiritual evolution, this universe is created and we are experiencing. So in one sense, it is God's play. We are all part of that God's play. Leela, they call it. A quick summary of what we did last time, within a few sentences. The entire Vedantic cosmology, how does it work? The ultimate reality is Brahman, existence, consciousness, bliss, Sat Chit Ananda. This is the absolute reality of Nirguna Brahman. Nirguna Brahma plus Maya, the power of Maya, is called Saguna Brahma, God with attributes, or the absolute with attributes becomes the God of religion. Ishvara, Saguna Brahma, what is called, Shiva or Vishnu or Narayana or Devi in various streams of Hinduism, or the Ik Onkar in Sikhism, or the other theistic religions, God in Christianity, or Allah in Islam, or Jehovah in Judaism. How am I so easily saying that they are all the same? Notice the definition in each of them is the same. Who is Allah or God or Vishnu or Shiva? It is that power which creates this universe, the creator. One common idea in all theistic religions, it's the power which creates the universe. It's one. So it's that one power which creates the universe is common definition in all the religions. Then they must be talking about the same thing itself. So Saguna Brahman, now what does it do? From it appears the 5 elements, air and space, space and air and fire and water and earth, the old cosmology. And these 5 elements are in a subtle stage. They combine to form our minds and subtle bodies, which consists of mind, intellect, memory, which consists of the ego, and plus the pranas, the life forces. They're all constituted by the 5 subtle elements. Further, the 5 subtle elements further combine with each other. Those who remember Vedanta Sara, you'll remember Panchikaranam, the quintuplication, the 5-fold mixing, which produces the 5 gross elements or 5 physical elements. Again, space, physical space, physical air and fire and water and earth, out of a combination of which has formed the visible experienced universe. These bodies and these worlds we live in, all of these are formed by the 5 gross elements. And this game is going on. And this universe goes through cycles. It is produced, it exists for a while. For a while means a very, very long while. And then whatever has been put together will fall apart. So it goes back into the state of dissolution. During its production or creation, in Sanskrit, srishti. And while it is held together, in Sanskrit, sthiti. And when it finally dissolves, collapses upon itself, that is called pralaya. Srishti, sthiti, pralaya. Projection or creation, sustenance or existence, and then finally dissolution of the universe or collapse of the universe. But don't be disappointed. It's going to happen again and again and again. So it's this huge cycle over billions of years which repeats itself. Throughout it all, it is consciousness plus Maya or Saguna Brahman, which is doing all of this. So this is the Vedantic cosmology. This is what is going on. But it is basically for our spiritual evolution that this whole game is going on. That's why Krishna says here, idaṁ dharyate jagat. The entire universe is supported by these sentient beings. We feel that I am not supporting this universe. I am just a tiny, miserable fraction of it. But yet it is for our sake that our Heavenly Father or Mother is playing this game of the universe. It will go on until we reach enlightenment. Now, the next 2 verses are also very important. These 4 verses, when Krishna says here, I will give you jnana and vijnana, knowledge with special knowledge, it is basically, he means these 4 verses, 4, 5, 6, 7. 6th verse. etad-yonīni bhūtāni sarvāṇītyupadhāraya ahaṁ kṛitsnasya jagataḥ prabhavaḥ pralayas tathā. Says, know that all beings have these 2 for their origin. I am the origin of the entire universe as also its destroyer. All right, etad-yonīni. This is the source of the entire universe. What is this? This lower nature and higher nature. This combination. It's not consciousness alone. it's not a material universe alone. It's this combination of consciousness and a material universe, which is what we experience right now around us. What is materialism? Materialism says it's a material universe alone. Then what is consciousness? Consciousness is a byproduct, an epiphenomenon. Somehow, like a candle burning, it produces a flame. Similarly, a physical, biochemical processes going on in this physical body, it produces consciousness. So what you think yourself to be a conscious being, it's just a byproduct. It's just the dance of neurons. It's biochemical reactions going on. Somebody said, according to a materialist, reductionist worldview, there is no fundamental difference between us, living sentient beings, and the fizz in a soda bottle. like a Coca-Cola bottle, if you open it, it bubbles and fizzes. It's just a chemical reaction going on there. Similarly, in this body also chemical reaction is going on, therefore it produces us. Now, that's one way of looking at it. That's the materialist way of looking at it. But according to what Krishna is saying, there are actually these two realities. There's this material reality and there is this consciousness. And both are the nature of one reality. That's a very interesting thing he has said. He says actually both are one reality, that is I, God, or Saguna Brahman. Saguna Brahman alone is consciousness, and Saguna Brahman alone is this material universe. How is this possible? Because we saw earlier how consciousness plus Maya produces or projects and sustains and destroys the material universe. All the 5 elements and their play, that's the material universe, and on this side is consciousness. Now, this consciousness has 2 aspects. 2 aspects means its original nature as consciousness plus Maya, God, and also its jiva nature, sentient being, as reflected in all these little bodies and minds, and in ignorance, somehow or the other, not knowing ourselves and thinking of ourselves as little perishable sentient beings, jivas. And this is ignorance. This is not the plan of God, and it's not God's wish. How do we know? If it was God's wish, we could have never done otherwise. But we can overcome this ignorance and realize our true identity with God. It is possible. That's what we are all trying to do. So Krishna here says, etad-yonīni, the combination of consciousness plus material bodies and minds is all these beings. Sarvāṇi bhūtāni, all beings here, all living beings, from the tiniest microbe to the mightiest elephant or blue whale, to all of us human beings, and even if there be beings in heaven, angels and devatas and gods and all those are combination of lower nature and higher nature, are combination of a material nature and the consciousness. How does consciousness interact with material nature? Again, Vedantas are consciousness is reflected in the buddhi, in the intellect, in the mind, as reflected consciousness. And that's the consciousness that we feel right now. When I say I and try to feel I, you see, it's a distinct thought, I. And it's also an aware thought. You'll always notice I. Think of that I as a mirror. When you see a mirror, your face is reflected in the mirror. Exactly like that. You, the pure consciousness, when that I thought comes up, you are reflected in that I thought, and that I thought lights up as a conscious, aware I. Only problem is that I forget myself, that I do not know somehow that I am this pure consciousness. And I start thinking I am that shining I. What is moksha? One sadhu in Uttarakhand put it nicely. The world will go on in its own way, an appearance in Maya. Body will also go on. It has been born, it is going on, it will age, it will succumb ultimately. You will walk and talk and eat. Mind will also go on. Thinking, feeling, remembering, waking, dreaming, sleeping. Mind, that is all mind. Prana will also go on, breathing in and breathing out, and becoming hungry and assimilating food, and so on. All of these activities will go on as like a film show in Maya. And in this mind, in Hindi he said, Jilmil jilmil katti hui apni chetan swarup. The twinkling, like a star twinkling in the mind, will be your reflection. the reflection of you, the consciousness. When you know that here is the mind. Here I am reflected in the mind as this little flash of awareness in the mind. But this is me, the unlimited awareness. This is moksha. This is mukti. The clear freedom from this little personality. This little personality will go on. And the mind will go on, thinking and willing and doing whatever it's doing. And in the mind will go on this little flash of awareness, this twinkling of awareness. But you will see the mind and the twinkling of awareness as not you. It's not you. You're completely free of it. And that is moksha. Bhūtāni. The word is bhūtāni. Bhūtāni means elemental. What are the elements? Space, air, fire, water, earth. Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apa, Prithvi. And there are 5 subtle elements. And then they have 5 gross forms. Again, the gross space, air, fire, water, and earth. So here he means not only the subtle elements, but now he's talking about the gross elements, 5 gross elements or 5 physical elements. And all these beings are because of this interaction of consciousness, this higher nature and lower nature. Sarvāṇi bhūtāni. All living beings, but also the non-living material nature. This is consciousness plus material nature. I'm just thinking, David Chalmers, when he talks about panpsychism, that consciousness is an all-pervasive reality in this physical universe. He thinks of it as another physical reality or material reality, some kind of material reality. He's not very far from this idea of what Krishna is saying, higher nature and lower nature. There are 2 realities, consciousness and material nature. All right. Sarvāṇi bhūtāni. Then he says, ahaṁ kṛitsnasya jagataḥ prabhavaḥ pralayas tathā. I am the source, the sustenance, and the destruction. Literally here, of the entire universe, I am the origin and the place of dissolution, or the destruction, the place where everything is destroyed. I, God, consciousness plus Maya of this entire universe. So what is the cause of, see, everything that we know has a cause. It is produced by something else. We are produced by our parents. But our parents, their bodies also were produced ultimately from the food that they ate. And the food that they ate has come from this earth. And it's a mixture of the 5 elements. So earth itself is a product. If you trace it back, what is the cause of the earth also? What is the cause of this physical universe? The best that we can do now, we trace it back to a Big Bang. So if you go to the Science Museum here, the planetarium in the Museum of Natural History, there'll be a huge explosion, a Big Bang suddenly, and lots of particles will come out with lots of radiation. Over time, they will cool down and many more particles will be formed. The first proto-stars will be formed. And from there, other material will come out, which will now condense into planets and planetoids and, comets and so on. And the planet will cool down. And from there, it'll be like oceans will be there. Often, I mean, it's pretty interesting. Space, and then there is some vibration, there's a Big Bang, and then fire, radiation, and then there is planets with water bodies, water, and then the land emerges. Literally, this is so interesting to see space, and from there air, and from there fire, and from there water, and from there land, and then emerges our living beings, all these living bodies and so forth. That is called creation. From our perspective, scientific perspective, the Big Bang is the furthest that we can go. If you ask before the Big Bang, they'll only say there was a singularity from perspective of physics. But what is that singularity and what caused that singularity? Religion will say there is a power beyond that also. And Krishna here is saying, I, consciousness plus Maya, Saguna Brahman, am the cause of that singularity which sets in motion this entire universe. That is called creation. Now, the definition of God always involves this. In the Brahma Sutras, the sutras on Brahman, the first sutra is Athato Brahma Jigyasa, hence, therefore, an inquiry into Brahman. So all of these, each of these words have long commentaries, detailed commentaries by Shankaracharya. But anyway, the question arises, an inquiry into Brahman, fine, but what is Brahman? So second sutra defines Brahman. Janmadhyasya yataha, birth, etc. of this, from which. It's cryptic. What does that mean if you expand it? That reality from which this universe was born, in which it exists, into which it shall finally disappear, only to be reborn. That reality is called Brahman. In Sanskrit, asya jagataḥ janma sthiti bhanga yasmat tad brahma. So that is Brahman, from which this entire universe it is born, in which it exists, and into which it finally disappears. One good way of understanding this is looking at our dream experiences. Think about it. When we fall asleep, we forget this world, we forget our bodies, we forget that we're sleeping, and a world of dreams appears, in which there are people, indeed you are there yourself, and activities are going along, you're meeting people and things are happening. There is space, there is a dream space, and you don't know you are dreaming. It looks like a normal world. There's space, and there is air and water and earth and so on, fire and all of that, and time is there, space and time are there. There's some kind of causality is also there. So all of this is produced by you with the unique powers of your dreaming mind. You with the unique powers of your dreaming mind, because of sleep. The cause is actually sleep, which hides the reality of the waking from you. Because of that, a dream world is produced by you plus the sleeping or dreaming mind. Exactly like that, God, who is unlimited consciousness, plus Maya, produces this universe, this waking universe of ours. And while the dream universe remains, it is you who is upholding it, isn't it? As long as you keep dreaming, that place will be there, those people will be there, that dream will continue. If you wake up, it will disappear. None of that exists without your dreaming. It's your dreaming which is sustaining that dream universe. So in exactly the same way, it is God plus Maya which sustains, even at this moment to moment, it sustains this existence. And then finally, destruction, pralaya. Pralaya means dissolution or destruction. What happens to the dream universe when you wake up? It disappears. Into what? Into your mind. Where it came up, it disappears. Like the movie screen in which the movie appeared and existed and will also disappear back into the screen. Exactly like that, the dream universe disappears back into your dreamer's mind when you fold it all up and get up. Exactly like that, this physical universe also is resolved back into Maya, the power of consciousness, at the end of the universe. So I have told this story earlier also. One of the stories I read in childhood, a science fiction story about the end of the universe. So very interesting. It's a common idea in Indian cultures that the universe goes through cycles. Creation exists for billions of years, disappears, and again it's created, and so on. So this is a Buddhist story. I've forgotten the name of the author, but a very nice story where it is some IBM engineers in the 1960s. They get a contract from Tibet. This was before the Chinese invasion, so late 50s or some late 50s probably. So they get a contract from Tibet, from the Dalai Lama at that time, that we need a computer. In those days, the computer in those days. So the engineers, they fly to India, to Nepal, and from there they go to Tibet with a caravan of yaks. They have the disassembled computer plus generators, because there's no electricity in the monastery there in the mountains of Tibet. And it's a very nice story. So there they reach the monastery, and the Tibetan lamas welcome them. So they ask, what do you need the computer for? And then they tell a story that we have this ancient prediction that these sutras are there. They are the 9 billion names of God. Yes, that's the name of the story. 9 billion names of God. So there are these 9 billion names of God, and we have to chant them. And once the chanting is finished, the universe will disappear. The universe is going to disappear. So it's a bit of a mixed up story, because now we know the Tibetan lamas don't believe in God anyway. So the theistic God is not part of their religion. But the author made a nice story about it. So he said that now the engineers don't believe any of it. They think it's a superstition. But anyway, they have a contract, and the lamas tell them, we have been chanting for 1,000 years now, but we still haven't completed the 9 billion names of God. But we have heard of these amazing machines made by IBM. So it can chant much faster than us. So can you program it to chant the remaining names of God, so the universe will come to an end? The engineers think, what superstition? Anyway, it's a contract, so we'll have to fulfill it. So they put the computer together, fire up the generators, and make the punch cards and whatnot. And then they're going to have the grand inauguration, when the computer will start churning out the remaining names of God, last few million names of God. And they calculated it'll just take a few hours, and then the whole chanting will be over. Now the engineers think that, look, very soon these monks will realize nothing is going to happen. I mean, so obviously the universe won't come to an end. We have to make good our escape, because otherwise they might get angry at us and they beat us up. So they make their escape at night, when the computer is still chanting, and the Tibetan plateau covered with snow. It's very beautifully depicted. And these engineers, as far as I remember, the engineers are sneaking away from the monastery, and the lamas are busy waiting for the 9 billion names to end, and the universe to end. And in the dark, in the snow, they're hurrying along to get as far away possible from the monastery before the lamas go wild. And then one of the engineers, that's the end of the story. That's the twist in the tale of the story. Last, it's quite thrilling. One of the engineers says, look up at the sky. And they look up at the sky, and they see the stars were beginning to disappear. A great darkness was spreading across the universe. So the universe is ending, actually. So, so there's a very interesting story. So this is something that is common to all the Indian cultures, that the universe goes through multiple cycles of creation, existence, and destruction. Somebody got hold of the story? I think. Yes, the 9 billion names of God. Who's the author? It's a very famous writer. Is it Arthur C. Clarke or? Oh, it's a famous story. Arthur C. Clarke, yes. Right. Right. Good. Read it if you like. You might enjoy it. So they go through these cycles, and here, so the definition of God is always where the cycles of the universe are because of God. So here he says, from me, ahaṁ kṛitsnasya jagataḥ prabhavaḥ pralayas tathā. I am the or the entire universe. I am the source. I am the existence of this universe. I am the destruction. I am the place where the universe disappears finally, again to re-emerge in the future. Now let's go deeper than this. The seventh mantra. Mattaḥ parataraṁ nānyat kiñchid asti dhanañjaya mayi sarvam idaṁ protaṁ sūtre maṇi-gaṇā iva. Higher than myself, there is nothing else, O Dhananjaya, Arjuna. In me, all this is strung like gems in a string. All right, a very deep verse here. Here he says, I am the first cause, I am the material cause, and indeed I am beyond all cause and effect. I'll repeat that. I am the first cause, and the material cause, and indeed I am beyond all cause and effect. What does it mean? Remember, this chapter is about God, the real nature of God. So we are going to see the three different, deeper and deeper understanding of God. The first understanding of God is the God, the creator, preserver, and destroyer of the universe, which is already said. God is not only the creator, but also preserver and destroyer, sustainer and dissolver of this universe. That is the personal God worshipped in religions. What is called, so Krishna is saying here, I am the avatar of my real nature is Vishnu, the personal God which all Vaishnavas worship. Or the same thing might be worshipped as Shiva by all Shaivas, or as the divine mother Devi by all Shaktas, the worshippers of Shakti. Or if you take it as, the God worshipped by Christians and Muslims and Jews, theistic God, which, by the way, the lamas in the Tibetan monastery actually don't believe in all that. But at that time, Arthur C. Clarke didn't know all that. All right. Now, a deeper meaning of this. Let's go in a more profound conception of God. God is the creator of the universe. But what is the material of the substance out of which this universe is created? Already Krishna has answered two natures, my material nature and my consciousness nature, lower nature and my higher nature. Material universe, the 5 elements and so on, mind and all of that, and consciousness. So just as the material continues in the effect, I'll repeat, the material cause continues in the effect. Clay, which you make into pots, what happens to the clay? It's right there. Now you're calling it a pot. Water, which appears as waves in the ocean. So it's a wave. What happened to the ocean water? It's right there. Now you're calling it a wave. See, the cause, the material of the wave is water. The material of the pot is clay. And where is the clay? When the pot is there, when is the clay? There itself. It is the clay. That pot is the clay. And where is the water? When there's a wave, it is the water. It's the water itself. You say, what is the material cause of a dream universe? It's the dreaming mind. Okay, but when I'm seeing this dream universe, people and space and time and all the wonderful things happening in a dream, or the frightening things happening in a dream, where is the mind? There itself. Whatever you are seeing is actually the mind, though it doesn't look like a mind. It feels like real people and real things. Similarly, God is the material cause of this universe. Made of what? Lower nature, higher nature. What he just already said. Therefore, when you experience this universe, right now, you are experiencing God. You are experiencing God in the form of space and air and fire and water and earth. You are experiencing God in the form of mind and intellect and memory and ego. You are experiencing God as the self-shining consciousness, which you think yourself to be, which you see yourself to be. All of this is nothing other than the material cause of this universe, which is God. It is in this sense that God pervades the universe. It is in this sense that God sustains the universe. What sustains the pot? What is the reality of the pot? What holds it together? Clay. What sustains the wave? Water. What sustains the universe in a dream? Mind. So, in the same way, it is God through his lower and higher nature who sustains this universe right now. And that means the material cause of this universe is God, the lower nature and the higher nature of God. So whenever we encounter the lower nature and higher nature of God, let us not forget we are encountering God. This is what Swami Vivekananda said. We Hindus worship a transcendent, immanent God. A transcendent, immanent God. So you have two conceptions of God. One is that the personal God, Shiva, Vishnu, Devi, God of the Father in heaven, or Allah, Jehovah, the personal God who creates this entire universe. A deeper analysis reveals the cosmic God, the immanent God who is in and through this universe. This is a point of huge debate and controversy and endless violence, especially in Islam, and controversies in Judaism and Christianity also. How far will we admit that God exists in the universe? Because if you make God existing in the universe, isn't there a danger of pantheism, taking the universe as God? Then chairs and tables are God? This is a very serious question. This is exactly the question which Narendranath asks Sri Ramakrishna. When he first hears about Advaita, he says, what nonsense? Are the pots and pans God? The doors and chairs, the tables and chairs, are they God? Are the rishis, the sages of the Upanishads, are they crazy? Sri Ramakrishna, of course, did not give any arguments. He just touched Narendranath, and Narendranath saw it to be so. The same divinity pervading everything. But we do not have that power. So we have to rely on our poor intellects to try to understand what is being said here. Transcendent, but immanent also. In and through, as the material cause of this universe. Everything here is nothing but God. So this is the deeper understanding of God. First understanding, personal God. Second understanding, transcendent, immanent God, cosmic God. Here, what you're seeing now. Even deeper, he says, mattaḥ parataraṁ nānyat. I am the highest, supreme. There's nothing beyond me, which means the absolute nirguna Brahman talked about in Advaita Vedanta is also I. So go a little further. So all is God. Here he's saying, no. If you go further again, it's not that all is God. Only God is. So Advaita is not pantheism. It's not that everything here is God. You say, but Swami, you just said that everything is God. No, God alone is. It's not that God has become the universe. It's that the universe is not. God alone is. When you dream, does your mind actually become houses, stones and rivers and trees and dogs and cats and people? No. Without actually becoming anything, mind remaining mind, all of these appear and you can experience it. Brahman, the ultimate reality, remaining the ultimate reality because of the power of Maya, the appearance of the universe. Without God actually becoming space and air and fire and water and earth, without God actually becoming mind and intellect and ego, without God actually becoming stars and planets and mosquitoes and blue whales, it all appears to be so from the perspective of pure consciousness. That transcendent reality, Nirguna Brahman, I am. That's my real nature. So you have three conceptions, deeper and deeper conceptions of God. The first conception is the God of religion, the personal God, whom we adore, worship in real. Devotees can experience this God as Meera experienced Krishna, or Sri Ramakrishna experienced Kali, the Divine Mother. That's the personal God. The deeper understanding of God is the cosmic God. God who is transcendent, immanent, beyond this universe, and yet appearing in and through this entire universe as its material cause. What material? Lower nature, higher nature, already mentioned. And beyond that, neither the cause of this universe nor the effect of this universe. What is the effect of the universe? This universe itself is the effect. In Sanskrit, karya. What is the cause of this universe? Higher nature, lower nature. In Sanskrit, karana. So the cause and effect of this universe, that's the second understanding. Beyond cause and effect, beyond causality. Nirguna Brahman, the absolute of Advaita Vedanta, where one without a second. There is only one reality, existence, consciousness, bliss, without a second. That's my highest or ultimately real nature. So three understandings of God. As again, look at it this way. In the first understanding of God, personal God, where are we in there? We are the devotees. Some believe in it, some do not believe. The non-believers are those who are atheists, they don't believe in God, and we believe in God. We are devotees. The Lord is is omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, all-knowing, all-powerful, present everywhere, and is the one who protects the devotee, grants the prayers of the devotee, gives peace and security to the devotee, frees the devotee from the bonds of samsara. But there's a Lord. I'm different from the Lord. I'm the devotee. We are different. Maybe I'm the servant of the Lord, or a devotee, or a child of the Lord. The Lord is my mother or father or master. But as you go deeper, the cosmic God, God who is everything, transcendent, in an immanent God, then I cannot be different from that God. I, the individual, now I become a tiny part of that God. God is the whole of which I am a part. So I'm a part of an organic divine unity. Then we go to the third conception of God as the non-dual reality, which only appears as this universe, but there's no reality to the universe at all. It has not become anything. The non-dual reality alone exists. Then I and that reality are one reality. And in that case, I am not the body, not the mind. Both are appearances. I am consciousness. God is consciousness, and it's one consciousness without any division, without any part of whole or part. Then I am that. Ahaṁ Brahmasmi. Notice we have gone through Dvaita, Vishishtadvaita, and Advaita. The dualistic approach where there's a difference, a real difference between us and the divine. And then the difference is erased. The difference only becomes one of part and whole. We are part of a divine whole. And then no part and whole either. There's only one non-dual reality. We come to non-dualism. That's the third and the deepest understanding of God that we get here. Purnatvam, completeness. So this is what he calls the knowledge and special knowledge, jnana vijnana, which he promised, Krishna promised. By the way, when you say avatar, incarnation, Krishna is an incarnation. Incarnation of whose incarnation? Which conception of God admits to an incarnation, which is possible? This is the first one, personal God. Krishna is incarnation of Vishnu or Narayana. So incarnation comes from the personal God. Personal God's incarnation comes for the devotee. Why not the cosmic God? In that case, we are all incarnations of the personal, of the cosmic God. God, which is everything. So all of us are manifestations of that God. And if you go further, the non-dual divinity of Advaita Vedanta, there's no incarnation is possible because no manifestation is permitted there at all. It's only one reality without a second. And the great thing is, all three are possible, all three paradigms are possible. You can apply them here and now. Exactly as this world is now. It's not that the world has to be destroyed and then only you will understand that non-dual reality. Or the world all has to be mushed together into an indistinguishable mass, then we are all part of it. No, even as it is now, even as we seem scattered in time and space, seem to be locked into individual bodies and separate from each other, actually right now, we can relate to the divine as devotee and God, or we can see ourselves as part of one ocean of divinity, or we can see ourselves as one reality, that one non-dual reality. I am Brahman. Okay, let's take the questions. This actually, okay, let me just give the example which Krishna has given. Sūtre maṇi-gaṇā iva. Just like a string, a thread on which are put pearls of a necklace. I am like the string on which pearls of a necklace are put. So I am the support of this universe, means I keep the necklace together. The thread which is not seen, which runs through all the pearls. In the pearl, there is the thread. And it runs through all the pearls and it keeps the universe, keeps the necklace together. Like that, I am the thread which runs through this entire universe of all living and non-living beings. As what? As their material nature, as their cause, as the material cause. What is that material cause? Lower nature, higher nature. What was mentioned in 4th and 5th verses. So I am like a string which runs through all the pearls of the necklace. I am the support which runs through the entire universe. Shankaracharya, in his commentary, he gives another example. Dirghatantu pateshu, like a long thread which has been woven into a cloth. So here's a cloth, but it's made of thread. So I am the thread which has been woven into a cloth, but the cloth is nothing but the thread. Wherever you touch the cloth, it's the thread itself. It looks like a piece of cloth, but everywhere it's the thread itself. So similarly, I am the thread which is in which is woven the universe. I'm the warp and the woof of this universe. Basically, I'm the constituent of this universe. This is the second conception of God, the immanent, transcendent, immanent being which constitutes this entire universe. Okay, let's take the questions. We'll go with Peter. Hello, Peter. Good to see you. You have to unmute yourself.
Swamiji, I think I may have raised my hand by mistake, but
okay.
Sorry, namaskar. Yeah.
Right. That's one question dissolved. Are you here in New York or in Iceland?
Oh, thanks for asking. No, I'm here in New York. My wife and I got back from Iceland, I think 6 months ago. So, but yeah, we were there for about 2 months. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. Let's look at the questions in the chat. One question is there suvijnana? What is suvijnana? I'm not very sure. We'll come back to that later this time. Shorley says, what are the attributes of consciousness? Good question. What are the attributes of consciousness? Is somebody shaking their head? Yes, you're right. None. Everything is an attribute of consciousness and nothing is. Because everything appears in consciousness. Therefore, you can say everything, plants, animals, tigers and wolves and stars and planets, all that is experienced in consciousness are the ornaments of consciousness, thoughts and feelings and emotions. But they are not attributes of consciousness. They don't belong to consciousness. They are appearances in consciousness. It's like the screen on which the movie plays. So you have villains, and you have good people, heroes and villains. I remember the first movie I saw, I don't remember much about it, but my father had taken me to a cinema hall to see a movie. And I remember that much, that I was bugging my father. I just wanted to know whether this person was a good person or a bad person. So is he the goodie or the baddie? My father would have to whisper it to me. Then I said, then I would be satisfied. Now, is the screen a goodie or a baddie? So you say none. It has nothing to do with the screen of the movie. But the screen enables the goodie and the baddie to appear and do their thing. Similarly, consciousness has no attributes. You might ask here, are we supposed to believe it? Is there any reason behind it? There is. Everything that is revealed in consciousness is an object and is not consciousness. So whatever is revealed in consciousness is an object. An attribute must be revealed. See, if consciousness has an attribute, would it be knowable or unknowable? If it is knowable, then it's an object. It doesn't belong to consciousness. If it is unknowable, it's not objectifiable, then what's the point of talking about it? What kind of an attribute would it be? So even logically, consciousness does not have attributes or characteristics. It doesn't have, what does that mean? It doesn't have size, doesn't have weight, it doesn't have an extension in space, it doesn't have duration in time, it doesn't have color or shape, it doesn't have texture or a feel to it. Even it's not rough or smooth, it's not happy or sad. None of these apply to consciousness. But because of consciousness, all these are experienced. Girish says, why are we deluded our true nature in the first place? Is it an evolutionary construct inherent in the object world? So this is the question which will come up once in a while. Every month or so, somebody has to ask this question. Why? A strictly logical answer which I'll give you, which satisfied me actually. The strictly logical answer is this, is the question is wrong. Swami Vivekananda says the question itself is wrong. Why is the question wrong? One might ask. Why is the question wrong? Because notice, what are you asking when you ask why is there delusion or ignorance? Let's call it, why is there ignorance in the first place? You are asking for an explanation. You're asking for a cause of ignorance. But as I said, ignorance is Maya and it's constituted of three things: time, space, and causation. So causation is part of the very structure of the constitution of ignorance. Now, it makes no sense to ask why is there causation. Just like it does not make any sense to ask what is outside space. The moment you say outside, you have already accepted space. There is space, then there's only outside, inside. It doesn't make sense to say what is before time, because the moment you say before, you've already accepted. Before and after are time words, accepted time. The moment you ask, why is there ignorance? You're asking, why is there causation? What is causation? Why and an answer to why. Cause and effect. You see an effect and you ask why. You are asking for a cause. You've already accepted causation when you ask why. You've already accepted ignorance when you ask why, about ignorance. In Maya, in the world of Maya, you can ask why for everything. But for Maya itself, you can't ask why, because the moment you ask why, you've accepted causation. Think it through. It took me quite some time to see what an elegant answer that is to the question, why is the question wrong? It's because the question is self-defeating. Or you can put it in a much more simple way. I think it was Asheshanandaji or one of the Swamis on the West Coast who said, on this side of enlightenment, we have the question, but not the answer. On that side of enlightenment, the enlightened ones, they have the answer, but they don't have a question. Notice it doesn't seem to bother them. Why is this universe there at all? Nobody who's attained enlightenment, who's like an advanced spiritual seeker or a saint, enlightened being in any religion, none of them at the end of their spiritual lives, when they have attained God realization or beatitude or whatever it is, will they say that one problem remains? Why is there ignorance or delusion? Nobody asks that. So that means it's not a problem for them anymore. Bill says, it's amazing that the contents of the mind and brain activities are more or less coordinated. True, but if it's an instrument, it would be coordinated. It's like the coordination between the steering wheel of a car and the way it is going. Way the wheels turn and the way the car is going, it will have an amazing coordination with the movement of the steering wheel, because it's an instrument to guide the car. Similarly, if consciousness is using the mind and the nervous system as instruments, you would naturally see some kind of flicker there. In the Vedantic system, it's not even consciousness. In Vedantic cosmology or Sankhyan cosmology, it is the mind which is using the brain. So the contents of the mind, the vrittis in the mind, are material. Notice what, in fact, Krishna's statement here can answer Bill's question. When Bill says it is amazing that the contents of the mind and brain activities are more or less coordinated. In Krishna's answer, what is the lower nature? The lower nature is the 5 elements: mind, intellect, and ego. What is the brain made of? 5 elements. The activities of the mind are material, lower nature. Activities of the brain are material, lower nature. Mind and brain are interacting, or somehow mind is using the brain. Therefore, an activity in the mind can be reflected in the brain and should be reflected in the brain, actually. They are not entirely different. The brain is the physical part of a system which extends to the mind. And according to Sankhya and Vedanta, mind and brain are both material. They're both objects. The problem starts with the Descartian mind-brain duality, where he sees the mind as something entirely different, and the brain as something entirely different, thus raising the problem of interaction. So Descartes himself had to face this question. How does this mind, which is spiritual in nature, according to the words used by Descartes, and the brain, which is material in nature, how do they interact? Where do they interact? You see the problem. Where they will interact, if they're entirely different, where they interact, that place must be either material or mental. But it has to share in the characteristics of both. Otherwise, how will it interact? I think it was Descartes who came up with the idea of the pineal gland being the meeting place of the brain and the mind. But in principle, it doesn't solve the problem. Pineal gland is a physical place. It's a part of the brain, the nervous system. So how does the mind, even if it's the pineal gland, how does it affect the pineal gland? And Descartes goes on to say, he digs the hole deeper and deeper. If you see Descartes' meditations, he says there are vapors in our nerves and they are pushed along by our thoughts. And those vapors push the activities in the brain. But even the vapor must be material, no matter how gaseous it is. So how would a thought push a vapor around? Anyway, so that's a big problem. But in the Sankhyan or Vedantic system, both mind and the brain are material. So they can interact in principle. Shiva Priya says, when consciousness is reflected on buddhi, so is it that one's realization, enlightenment, the time taken does depend on the degree of buddhi? The degree of buddhi depends on my karma. Degree of buddhi, what would you mean by degree of buddhi? You might say purity of the buddhi or the subtlety of the buddhi. Yes, a good deal of it depends on our karma. But what it depends upon is the use that we put the buddhi to. If you apply the buddhi to Vedantic analysis, or let's say in a more liberal sense, a spiritual path, an inquiry, then that buddhi will serve you. That buddhi is already equipped to give you enlightenment. It's just that we don't use the buddhi in that sense. We use it to play the stock market. We use it to write novels or whatnot. We use it for a variety of things. We were just reading today in the morning the spiritual teachings of Swami Brahmananda, where Swami Brahmananda tells a young man that the amount of energy that you put in, passing examinations, 1/12 of that energy, he says, it will be enough to reveal to you the teachings of the scriptures. If you apply it to the scriptures, 1/12 is his. That's enough, and eventually lead you to enlightenment. Bill says, Brahman, not Brahmin, Brahman. Brahman is a caste. Brahman plus Maya, Saguna Brahman. It sounds like Maya is a separate reality. Yeah. So in Sankhya, there are two realities, consciousness and material nature. Whereas in Vedanta, it's one reality. Maya is the power of Brahman. If it's the power of Brahman, then why are you saying Brahman plus Maya? Because the power is also ultimately not of the same grade of reality as Brahman itself. Brahman is reality itself. It has this extraordinary power which produces this magical display, but it is not a second reality apart from Brahman. Just as sleep and the mind. Now, the sleep has a unique power. It makes the mind forget the waking state, and it becomes the foundation for dreams. Without sleeping, you can't dream. But the sleep is not something separate from the mind. It is a power inherent to the mind. Of course, one may say it's an imperfect example because the mind is active, and you are again and again saying that Brahman is not something that is doing things. It's not dynamic. But the mind is dynamic. So imperfect example. Anyway, Maya is not a second reality. To be a second reality, it must be able to exist apart from Brahman. But it can't exist apart from Brahman because nothing can exist apart from Brahman, because Brahman is defined as existence itself. Just as a pot is not a second reality apart from the clay. You say the clay is name and form. Then the name and form seem to be something apart from the clay. It won't be. You take the clay away, name and form don't hang in the air. It has no power except through the clay itself. Maya itself, which is the power of Brahman, has no ability to do anything, not even exist without Brahman. Sangeeta says, so sleep here hides the reality of the waking world or the unreality of the waking world. Now, here I'm giving an example. When you say sleep hides the reality of the waking world, so makes dreams possible. So I'm giving an example of waking and dreaming to explain how consciousness projects, or Maya projects a universe. The example is that when you dream, you see so many things in the dream. And whatever you see in the dream is the sleeping mind. The mind itself appears as all the entities in your dream. So your sleeping mind, dreaming mind, is the material cause of all the people and objects and houses and cats and dogs, whatever you see in the dream. What is it made of? It is made of the dreaming mind, and dreaming mind is possible only because of sleep. And sleep hides the waking world. If it didn't hide the waking world, you wouldn't be able to dream. Similarly, Maya hides our real nature and makes this world seem real. Now, the unreality of the waking world, that's Vedanta. That's already you're entering into Vedanta. Don't mix up the example and the exemplified. There's in Sanskrit two words, drishtanta and drashtantika. Drishtanta means example. Drashtantika means what you want to illustrate. So it's like snake and rope and Brahman and the world and Brahman. The snake is the appearance by error. Not knowing the rope, we think it's a snake. The cause is not knowing the rope, and the effect is seeing the snake. So the ignorance of the rope hides the rope and reveals or manifests the error called the snake. Similarly, the ignorance of our real nature as Brahman hides it from us, and we who are already Brahman, and makes this world appearance seem real. Even after knowing that you are Brahman, this world appearance will continue, but you will know it is nothing other than Brahman, your own self projected in all these ways. Sleep hides the reality of the waking world. It doesn't hide the unreality of the waking world. Notice, when you wake up from sleep, do you realize the unreality of the waking world? No. If that could happen, that would be very nice. Every day we would the moment you wake up from sleep, you would be enlightened. The world is unreal. I am Brahman. No. All that happens when you wake up from sleep is, this is real. That dream was false. The only way of waking up from this waking world, I gave a talk on this, waking up from waking. So awakening from waking. Only way of waking up is how? Through knowledge. Not by sleeping or waking. It's by, in the waking world, when you engage in Vedantic inquiry, you wake up from this dream of the waking itself. Arthur C. Clarke. 2001 Space Odyssey. It was one of my favorite science fiction books. They made a film about it, which was very, very popular, a classic. Charles Chow. Atman seems very similar to individual soul. Yes. Is there an equivalent in Vedanta for guardian angel? I guess your guru plays that role. Or just like the saints in the Catholic Church, there are Siddha Purushas, the enlightened beings who would help you. When Kalpana says, trying to understand Sanghata Pararthatvat, would it be correct to say that the Jiva Sanghata is myself with this name and form exists for something else? No. This body and this mind, this physical body, this Sthula Sharira, and the mind, the subtle body, to be more precise, Sthula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, Karana Sharira, threefold body, physical, subtle, and causal. This combination, this compound exists for you, the sentient being. Does this exist for something else? No, it doesn't exist for something else. The whole thing exists for you. In fact, what Krishna just said, the entire universe actually exists for you. This particular body exists for your enlightenment, but also the entire game of the universe is played for your enlightenment and the enlightenment of all of us, ultimately. In either case, what use would Satchidananda have for the Jiva as an assembly? Satchidananda wouldn't have any use for anything at all. And there is nothing else other than Satchidananda. But we Jivas, the Satchidananda, under the influence of Maya, we do need all the help that we can get. Rick says, if someone says God doesn't exist in the universe, then they also say that they can't also say that God is omnipresent. I know. So in Christian theology, they have ways of getting around it. So God exists as spirit in the universe, but not as the material cause of the universe. Then that would become dangerously pantheistic. That got Spinoza into trouble with the Jewish elders because he's painted as pantheistic, though a deeper understanding of the Spinoza shows him much closer to Vedanta, actually. Siddhartha says, is Purusha the same as Nirguna Brahman? If so, to realize Nirguna Brahman, do you need the state of Nirbija Samadhi? Okay, Purusha and Prakriti are Sankhyan concepts and also used in the Patanjali Yoga. And the corresponding reality in Advaita Vedanta would be Nirguna Brahman. But here are major differences. The Purushas are many. There are as many Purushas as sentient beings. They are all separate Purushas in Sankhya, in Yoga. But Nirguna Brahman is one. So we are all one unlimited consciousness. The moment you say many Purushas, then it raises many questions. So many Purushas means many consciousnesses. Then how can that consciousness be infinite? Because there is something other than you. There is a material universe other than you, Prakriti, entire vast material universe. Plus, there are also many other consciousnesses apart from you. I think it was Heisenberg who said consciousness is that which doesn't have a plural. So Sankhya, how would Sankhya continue to say that consciousness is infinite and yet say, other than consciousness, material universe is there. Other than this consciousness, there are many other consciousnesses. Whereas Advaita Vedanta is the truly logical conception of the infinity of consciousness as one consciousness without a second. Material universe is an appearance in consciousness. And the so-called many consciousnesses are because so many minds have reflected consciousness in them. That's why they seem to be different jivas. But it's actually one reality, one consciousness. So these are the major differences between Sankhya and Advaita Vedanta. So the moment you say Purusha, Advaita Vedanta, they will say Purusha is Nirguna Brahman, but they will understand Purusha in the Advaitic sense, not in the Sankhyan sense. I missed the first lecture on 7th chapter, waiting for the recording. It will be uploaded. And there I explained the difference between Jnana and Vijnana. There was a lot of discussion on that. Yes, it will come. Girish says, is panpsychism equivalent to Vishishtadvaita? Not equivalent, but pretty close, I would say. More than Vishishtadvaita, I would say panpsychism is pretty close to Sankhya. What does Sankhya say? Here is a material universe and also consciousness. Fundamental independent reality interacting with the material universe. Almost the same thing that panpsychism is saying, what David Chalmers is trying to propose. When you experience God, it is still an object. And also, how does Kshetra and Kshetragya fit in? Very good question. This is the foundation for the Kshetra and Kshetragya, field and knower of the field, which will come in the 13th chapter. What he has just said. Lower nature, the field. Higher nature, the knower of the field. The jiva is the kshetragya, knower of the field. And all the lower nature which he mentioned, the 5 elements, mind, intellect, ego, all of that is the field. So he will call this field and field knower in the 13th chapter. Same idea. Nirguna is not mentioned here, Bill says. Correct. He caught it nicely. I am extending the idea to Nirguna, that absolute reality, because this is the chapter about Saguna Brahman. From 7th chapter onwards, you will see the emphasis will be on Saguna Brahman, on God. So not on the absolute. Srinivas Raju is saying that is the same as Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karana. Yes, this is the statement from the Vedanta Sara. What is Brahman? Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karana. One undivided instrumental cause and material cause of the universe. What is a divided instrumental and material cause? Like a carpenter making a table out of wood. Wood is the material of the table. Carpenter is the intelligent cause, let's say, is the intelligent cause which makes the material into a table. But in Vedanta, that's not true. It's the same reality, which is both the consciousness behind it and also the physical reality behind it. All right. Is bliss an attribute of consciousness? No, from an Advaitic perspective, we're calling it bliss, Ananda, and it's experienced as bliss in the mind, but it is just consciousness itself. It is the very unlimitedness of consciousness. One Advaita teacher put it this way: Ananda is the Purnatvam, is the wholeness or the unlimitedness, the infinitude of consciousness. That is, when it's realized, it's experienced as tremendous freedom, bliss, and peace in the mind, and you call it Ananda. Oyanga says, in many teachings, silence, bliss, and light are considered attributes of consciousness. They aren't attributes of consciousness, objects of consciousness then? Yes. When in deep states of meditation or upon the enlightenment realization that I am unlimited awareness, the effect will be the experience of silence and bliss and light in the mind. Yes. So many questions. Let's just bracket it off here. We'll take it up next time. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.